All right, let's get underway. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our webinar this morning. My name is Chris Kearns, and I am the Regional Manager for Altis Consulting UK. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Sam Riggs. Sam is one of our consultants, principal consultants at Altis UK as well. And Sam was also the lead consultant on the engagements that we have delivered with iiPay to date. Our friends from iiPay aren't able to join us this morning. They've had something come up, but Sam is very well versed in the solution and will be demonstrating the reporting solution using screenshots a little later on. So you'll get a good idea of how this solution works. There's two things that I hope you take away today from the webinar. The first is an understanding of the Azure data platform and Power BI embedded reporting solution that we have created for iiPay. And I hope that it inspires you to want to improve the reporting solutions you have at your organization and to improve the reporting that you provide to your clients as well. The second thing that I hope you take away is being inspired by the global payroll services that iiPay provides and the data and analytics services that Altis provides, and that perhaps it inspires you to want to get in contact with either of us to see how we might be able to help you with your solutions. So I'm going to spend a minute or two introducing iiPay and Altis for contextual purposes. Then I'm going to describe the business challenge that iiPay was facing and then why they reached out to partner with Altis to help them build a solution. Sam is then going to describe the solution that we have built. And as I mentioned, he's going to demonstrate the screenshots of that Power BI embedded reporting solution and how that works. And then I'm going to wrap up by talking about the benefits that iiPay and their clients have derived from the solution to date, and then talk briefly about iiPay's next steps in their data journey. If at any point during the webinar you think of a question, please pop it into the Q&A window, and we will either address the questions in writing throughout or we'll address them live at the end. Okay, so iiPay is a service-focused global payroll provider driven by innovative cloud-based technology. In fact, they were the 2020 winner of the Global Payroll Supplier of the Year. Their technology solution empowers payroll, HR, and finance professionals through advanced data management, analytics, and business intelligence functionality, and enables their users to access and report on any global data at any time. iiPay helps to reduce complexity, centralizes and simplifies multi-country payroll processes, and importantly, ensures compliance. They are focused on being more than a payroll provider. Instead, they strive to be a true partner and an extension of their client's payroll team. And iiPay currently provide fully managed global payroll services in more than 170 countries. And they look to simplify global payroll and achieve their ambition of paying the planet. Whilst at Altis, we are a specialist data and analytics consultancy. We're vendor agnostic, which means we don't sell any software. And what it is that we do is we focus on helping our clients achieve their business outcomes through the use of data. So therefore, we've got outcomes in prominent red color on the right side. How we help our clients achieve those outcomes is through three pillars of service. On the first pillar is our advisory services, and this is where we help our clients understand where they are today with data and analytics and help them figure out where they want to be with data and analytics in the future, and help them create a roadmap for how to get from where they are to where they want to be. In the second pillar of services, solution delivery, This is where we help our clients execute those steps in the data roadmap. And those steps can include helping them build a data platform like we have for iPay, and that can take the form of things like data lakes or data warehouses, helping them build data visualization solutions, implementing data governance frameworks, etc. And third and finally, our managed services pillar is where we proactively support and maintain the solutions that we build for our clients or that our clients already have, so that they can not have to worry about doing that themselves. Everything that we do is underpinned by our frameworks and best practices that we've been evolving over the last 23 years. As well, everything that we do is imbued with our ethos of connecting with courage, heart, and insight. So let's talk a little bit about the challenge that iPay were facing and why they then reached out to partner with Altis to have us help them. So iPay has a global payroll management system, a GPMS, that provides a global portal for their clients to securely log in to access their payroll information. And that payroll information includes payroll costs per period and region, as well as information about new starters and leavers. The global portal also allows iPay's clients to access a rich set of reports. Now, the challenge was that while those reports were certainly useful, and there are screenshots of them at the bottom there, they weren't offering their clients dynamic visualizations or the ability to drill down to explore the data in more detail. And the reports were configurable, but anytime there was any changes that were required to those reports, it required iPay to access their busy IT developers to make those changes to the reports, i.e., those reports couldn't be changed by business analysts. So iPay is all about innovating and delivering value add to their clients over and above what might be considered to be offered by a traditional payroll provider. And as part of that, they aggregate vast quantities of data in numerous systems, and they wanted to find a way to unlock the potential in that data and make it easy and intuitive for their clients to be able to interact with it. So they wanted a reporting solution that enabled not only themselves, but also their clients to uncover insights and help them improve their respective businesses, to be able to make more timely and informed decisions using that data, to be able to find previously hidden patterns in the data that they weren't necessarily able to find before, and importantly, to be able to understand their payroll spend globally, broken down by things like payment type and location. As well, they wanted their clients to be able to quickly review employee demographics, including age, gender, and salary distribution. And in summary, they wanted to be able to make the payroll data work harder to deliver business value, not only for iPay, but again, for their clients. So iPay recognized that they wanted to deliver best practice dashboards and analytics for themselves and for their clients. And so they looked for a partner that could help them do that. They chose Altis for two main reasons. First of all, our deep data and analytics experience. Again, we've been doing this for 23 years and that's all we focus on. And secondly, they chose us because we're vendor agnostic, i.e. we don't sell software. And the reason that was important for iPay is they were looking for us to be able to help them recommend a data platform and a data visualization software that was not only right-sized for iPay, but would also scale with them as their business grows. So iPay engaged us for two pieces of work. The first was a short discovery engagement where we took the time to conduct workshops with iPay stakeholders to understand the requirements for a new reporting solution. We also conducted workshops to facilitate data platform and data visualization toolset selection. And we created a high-level solution design to satisfy the reporting requirements they had for themselves and for their clients. And finally, we produced an estimate for delivering that solution. And that estimate fed into a business case, which then went to the iPay board for approval. Once that was approved, they engaged us then to deliver the solution. And I'm shortly going to hand over to Sam to talk about that solution. But before I do, I want to conduct a quick poll. So let me start this poll, and I'll ask that you engage with it, please. And basically it's asking, if you are currently providing reporting to your clients, how do you go about doing that? Do you A, manually create reports and send them manually to your clients? Or do you provide a license to your reporting software to your clients, such as a license for Power BI, and have your clients log in to access that? Or are you using something like Power BI embedded so that your clients don't need a license and they can access and interact with the reports directly? Or are you using some other approach? So I'll just give you a little bit more time to engage with that, please. I can see that 73% of you have engaged with it so far. That's fantastic. Thank you. And not surprisingly, the highest percentage answer so far is that reports are sent to clients via email. Just another few more seconds before I end the polling. A few more coming in. And great, I will end that polling now and share the results with you. So 63% of you are sending reports to clients via email, and that's double the next option, which was clients logging into your portal to access reports using a license you've assigned to them. 6% of you are using something like Power BI embedded, and 22% of you other. Great. Well, thank you for engaging with us on that. That's kind of what I expected, is that the bulk of people would be sending reports manually to clients. So what that tells me is there's certainly an opportunity for a lot of you to improve those processes. Fantastic. So I'm now going to hand over to Sam, and he's going to take himself off mute and talk about the solution delivery approach. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks very much, Chris. The solution delivery, as Chris mentioned, consisted of two engagements. There was a discovery phase and then the solution delivery itself. So the discovery is really trying to understand that current state of iPay's data and analytics solution. So what they were doing with their existing approach to serve reports to clients, and then to get requirements for a future state. This consisted of requirements workshops to understand from the subject matter experts what the requirements are to be able to report on and how the new technology should be facilitated. And that was put together into a future state definition, which includes a recommendation on a data platform and a data visualization tool set. So iPay hadn't already decided on which cloud platform they might be using or which of the various BI tools they'd be using. Another part of the discovery was to produce an estimate for the delivery of everything that was included in the requirements. The solution delivery itself consists of actually implementing that future state, and delivering some initial dashboards. And it also included some training in the chosen toolset, which was Power BI, and also data visualization best practices. So let's take a closer look at the discovery phase. And this is a simplified current state picture of iPay's Insight reporting solution, which is a part of their global portal. And the solution consists of the portal itself, where users log in and interact and see visuals. And then there is separately the GPMS source system. And the visuals, or the data stored for the visuals, are actually fed from an Azure database. So some of the challenges with this current state were that there were visualizations written as code. So they're web technology visualizations. They're created by software developers, and they're created to a specification. And this means that analysts within the business aren't able to easily update visuals, and it means that the visual release cycle is really tied to that release cycle of the main app. Another challenge is that the technologies used are really best served for a web app only. So rather than structuring data around a business process like payroll and having the data very granular, the data is aggregated. It doesn't allow for drill down to fine detail, and it has limited dimensionality. So as Chris mentioned, we wouldn't be able to slice by things like staff demographics. Another challenge was that the analytics are for the app only. So rather than iPay's analysts being able to utilize that data that they've collected to make better products for their customers and do their own internal reporting, the solution is only serving that web app. So that was an initial assessment of the current state, and the discovery engagement proposed a future state. And this is a modified data flows diagram, and you can see that at the top, where users are interacting with the global portal, there is no change. But some of the challenges are addressed by firstly creating visualizations from the subject matter experts in a BI tool. So visuals that the clients are seeing are now created by analysts, not by software developers. And the release cycle isn't now tied to the main app itself. And these can be updated whenever analysts make changes to them. There's also technology that is better suited for the web app itself, as well as for general ad hoc analysis. So now analysts can interact with the visuals that they're providing, and they can also upload visuals that are purely for internal consumption. And thirdly, we still have a data platform still in Azure that is storing that data to be serving the global portal and also serving analysis, but now it is modeled in a way that the business really understands. So it's modeled using dimensional modeling, and it can be easily interpreted by analysts. So that was the proposed high-level architecture. And Chris mentioned that the discovery engagement also helped iPay to select platform and tool sets. So on the platform front, there's no changes again to the existing way that customers interact with the global portal. But the data platform, after considering various options, we chose Azure, which was the previous platform as well. And specifically within Azure, we chose Azure Data Factory, which is a cloud-native extract, load, and transform tool, and Azure SQL DB, which is a cloud-native SQL database and is an evolution of SQL Server. This option did represent a higher initial effort to iPay rather than reusing their existing infrastructure as a service and bespoke ETL solutions. But the benefits are flexibility in the future and scalability for performance as more and more clients come on board the system. The additional effort involved in moving to this infrastructure is largely around the development of those extract, load, and transform processes, which was done by Altis, and also the development of a secure API to facilitate data access. And that was implemented by iiPay. The discovery phase also helped iiPay to select a data visualization tool. We already mentioned it was Power BI. And some of the key requirements that the tool had to have was, firstly, that it was a technology that was mature, had been around for some time. It had to support best practice data visualization, and it needed to be recognized as an industry leader. So if you think the leaders quadrant within Gartner as an example. And because we're going to be embedding, there was going to need to be some kind of platform as a service or infrastructure as a service server options. Another key requirement for embedding is that we can embed visuals within that web app, and the end users don't have to have a login or a license to the BI tool itself. So the end users need to be able to come in and use the visuals seamlessly without knowing that a tool like Power BI is being used. And so Power BI Desktop, which you can see on the left there, is the desktop tool used to create those visuals, and Power BI Embedded is the platform as a service tool within Azure. That's the end output of the discovery engagement. Let's talk about some interesting aspects of the solution design. And iiPay's solution presented some challenges. The first interesting challenge was the separation of data between clients. So there are many clients, and their data must be kept separate within the database, so not sharing the same data structures. Because of the way that, or the sensitivity of payroll data, this is a key value proposition for iiPay's clients. So it's something that we wanted to maintain on the analytics side of the solution as well as the operational side. And because new customers can come on board at any time, the solution needs to be able to keep that data separate whilst also making it very easy to add new customers. So we don't want to be doing major releases of new ETL when each new customer comes on board. We want to be able to add them and remove them very quickly. And that's done purely by metadata. The second challenge was row-level security. So in addition to clients' data being separate from one another, each client's users have varying levels of accessibility to view different payrolls. And this needs to be dynamically changed based on whoever's logging in and viewing at that particular time. Because the end user is not actually authenticating with the tool like Power BI, they're instead logging into iiPay's global portal app. That global portal must tell Power BI who is using the dashboard so that the data can be filtered. And another interesting challenge was currency conversion. So because iiPay is a global payroll provider, their clients can have currencies can have payrolls in many currencies. But obviously it doesn't make any sense to be able to sum the numbers of a pounds, euros, and dollars payroll and simply report on that number. Instead, we need to be able to convert to a common currency. So there aren't any default conversions stored within the source system. And it was also determined that we needed historically accurate currency conversions. So for instance, if a business has a payroll from 2017 to 2020 in pounds, let's say, and then in 2021, they add another one in euros, they may want to look back at the last 4 years' payroll costs purely in euros. So we now need to go back and get those currency conversions from pounds to euros. Customers can also specify an exact conversion rate for any particular payroll period. So if a customer just knows exactly what their conversion rate was between, say, US dollars and pounds for one particular payroll period, they can upload that, and the solution should use that preferably to getting data from somewhere else. So with those challenges considered, let's take a look at the technical architecture. And this solution architecture consists of the technologies we've talked about from Azure and Office 365, and I've broken it down here into 4 layers. Data sources, so where are the inputs for data coming from? Data integration, which is where the data is stored and transformed. The reporting and analytics layer, which is the actual technology we use for BI, and then who's consuming and creating that content. So firstly, looking at data sources, there are only 2, as you can see. The first is the payroll source system, and this is batch extracted from iPay using the API that they created that we mentioned. It's done daily, and this places an expectation on users that data is at most 1 day old. Because of payroll's nature of often happening on set days throughout a reporting period, set days throughout a month, this is deemed to be quite acceptable, but it's also possible to speed up that so that you can have either multiple batches coming in per day or even streaming in real time. The second source there is a currency conversion service, and it's providing data on 170 currencies, including full history all the way back to the start of the payroll data. Again, we get that currency data daily or the most recent version, so that may be an intraday rate depending on when the data is loaded. Looking at the data integration pillar, data is ingested from those source systems into Azure SQL database, as we mentioned, using Data Factory. The data warehouse, which is where that data is stored, consists of several layers. First, it has a landing layer, which is a copy of the data exactly as it was from the source. The second is a persisted staging layer, and this is where we capture history, and this is in case the source system doesn't itself capture history. And then the third is the actual data warehouse. And the data warehouse is a presentation layer. It's modeled using Kimball dimensional modeling best practices, and this is where terms like facts and dimensions exist, and we use slowly changing dimensions in this case to capture that history. And this is really where all of the transformations take place, and it's during this modeling phase that we collaborate heavily with the subject matter experts from the business to make a model that can be easily sliced and diced by any BI tool. Here's a simplified example of what was produced. And the aims of taking that source data and converting it into the data model, into the dimensional model, really are to understand what business process we are modeling. So payroll in this case, we need to understand the granularity in order to form facts. And granularity in this case might be 1 row per payslip, or perhaps 1 row per payslip element. We want to understand all of the business entities or the dimensions that stakeholders are interested in. So we mentioned things like being able to slice by staff demographics. So we're certainly interested in some of those characteristics of staff who are receiving the payslips. And we want to be able to make this analysis flexible to answer future questions, as well as any questions that we currently have. The way that we do that is by capturing that data at the most granular, or the atomic grain, which just means we want to capture as much detail as possible. Another aim is to have excellent performance, and dimensional modeling facilitates this by having very long and skinny facts, so many rows and few columns, and much shorter or fewer rows, but very wide and broad dimensions. Just to emphasize again, all of the data stored in this data warehouse is separated per client, so no client's data are stored together. Over to the reporting and analytics pillar. the top box there, Power BI, represents the Power BI service. So even when we're embedding with Power BI, we still put dashboards and reports and data sets within the service. They go into workspaces, and workspaces are containers that can hold multiple Power BI artifacts. And workspaces can also be designated as premium. And premium means they use reserved computing power as opposed to sharing the cloud resources that other Power BI users would otherwise share. And premium is necessary in order to be able to embed visuals for users who don't have a login and hence don't have a license to Power BI. The global portal is unchanged, as we mentioned, but it does authenticate with Power BI, and it requests an embed token, and that allows it to receive or to access the correct workspace and to receive the correct report and the correct data set as a part of that report. And when publishing to Power BI, so storing that data in Power BI, again, all clients have their own data sets and reports. Over to the consumers of data, and Power BI Desktop would connect to the data warehouse, the SQL database, and from there we create a Power BI model. And this model largely represents the dimensional model we talked about earlier. Once we've created that model, the data is available in memory, and this gives the best performance experience for users to do analysis. And you can see that we have a two-way arrow there on the internal side representing that analysts can consume and publish content to the service, but the external users of the global portal only receive the content. So that's a look at our technical architecture. Let's examine how we created visuals for this solution. And something to mention up front is that development of dashboards really does favor an iterative approach. It is very difficult to go to stakeholders and ask them to tell a report developer exactly what they need right from the get-go in one attempt. So we really embrace this iterative cycle of develop something, get feedback, develop something, get feedback. And that process might start with a whiteboard mockup, and that's a conceptual design because we want to come to stakeholders with something that can be to provide feedback and we can move forward on. Stakeholders will often find it easy to say that they're interested in various colors, or they might want maps, or they might want drill down functionality, or they might want interactivity, but it's more difficult to decide that the most prominent thing should be shown as a bar chart in the top left, and it should cover these years, etc. So being very specific. So using those best practice data visualization principles from thought leaders like Stephen Few and Edward Tufte, we first workshop with stakeholders using a whiteboard or on a screen and do a mock-up. And we socialize the idea of different KPIs or different measurements and different visual types. And from there, we start to iterate. And essentially, we would create a new dashboard, and this is an early version of iPay's dashboard. And we would iterate on that sort of semi-daily, and each time getting new feedback and incorporating new features from the backlog. As we keep iterating, we introduce things like Power BI themes, and themes allow us to standardize colors across multiple reports or across one report. They also allow us to standardize how we format different chart types, and that gives us a consistent look and feel between different visuals for the same client. Eventually, this feeds into a dashboard, which is a release version. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next section. So, Power BI embedded demonstration. When users log into the global portal, they see this screen, and they can now visit Insight, which is now Insight 2.0. When they first come in and see dashboards, they're greeted by something that explains for first-time users what has happened, how things have changed since since the dashboards have been introduced, the Power BI dashboards. And here is the opening dashboard, which is payroll. And first, a little bit of a note about embedding. If it wasn't clear, this red box area is the actual Power BI visual. So everything else around that is HTML, is a web page. So this is relatively seamlessly integrated. There's no Power BI license required to access this from someone who's viewing. If you grab the screen and resize it, the visual itself will resize gracefully. And if you're familiar with Power BI, you might notice that things like the page tabs down the bottom or the filters pane on the right-hand side are gone. And these are all different customizable options. So let's talk about a few of the features of the dashboard itself. The first one is screen space. And this is just really conforming to the at a glance, how is my business doing principle of dashboards. So in the top left-hand corner, we have our most important metrics. We have something telling us which dashboard we're on, and we have our user controls. This particular dashboard actually also demonstrates some simple visual choices for data communication. So KPIs suit cards very well. So there's cards in the top left-hand corner there. Trends over time are either as column or line charts. Relative importance here is shown with org units on a tree map, and this is useful when there are many marks on a page, and we need to show them all at once. The way that color is used, you can see that blue there, everywhere on the page where that blue is representing payroll costs, whereas where things are gray and there's one line in the line chart, and also this bar chart for headcount, that's always representing headcount. Comparisons used here by a bar chart, it's very simple to see that the UK payroll has the greatest value. And then the general use of space and non-data ink. So you can see that there are no kind of hard lines or borders between each of the different visuals. Just looking at some of the controls and interactivity on the dashboard. At the top left, we have our indicator of which dashboard we're on, and it's a button, so we can click to navigate to a different dashboard. Then we have a drop-down for our currency conversion, and we can dynamically change. We also have our filters. Date is probably the one people are most interested in, and then org units. Over on the top right, we have some metadata information. So the last time this dashboard was refreshed, and we also have a help button. There's also general interactivity, which I can't show you, unfortunately, in a screenshot, but if we were to click the various bars and we can select multiple ones, we could show only, for instance, the 2019 French payroll as an example. If we click that help button, we get something like this. This is a help page describing exactly what's on the dashboard and how to use it. And another common use of a help button is to visit a data dictionary. And a data dictionary would essentially provide a definition for each thing that's on the dashboard. So if there's something that can be analyzed, we get a definition of it so that everyone understands what they are looking at. Also on that dashboard, there are some buttons for drill through functionality. And those buttons, they say compare countries, compare payrolls, and compare element types. And if we click on them, we get a different view in this one here, which is compare countries. We get a drill through, and we can pass filters or set bookmarks. And we know that all of the visuals on this particular view of this drill through are related to countries. We also have something similar for comparing payrolls and comparing element types. They all look quite similar on the test data that we're showing. And lastly, to have a look at this. This is two views of the same dashboard again, and just showing on the left-hand side there what happens if you mouse over the little help icon, which is associated with each visual. We get a textual descriptor of what that visual is, and when we mouse over one of the bars on or one of the lines on the line graph, we get exact value figures. So seeing quickly approximately what the trend is, but then being able to mouse over and see an exact value. And just to show some more of the interactivity there. And I mentioned before there were two primary dashboards. The second one you can see here is payroll, is HR, and shows all those demographics. I won't drill into that one. And that's the end of the embedded demonstration. I'm now going to hand over to Chris, who's going to talk about iPay's business benefits and next steps.
Thank you very much, Sam. So we have had a couple of questions come in, and Sam's going to take the opportunity to have a read of those now. I'm just going to take a minute or two to wrap up with business benefits and next steps. And so if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A window now, and we'll address them. So from a business benefits perspective, iPay's clients now have instant access to a wide range of data and analytics derived from their payroll data, giving them a 360-degree view of payroll spend. This allows them to spot trends, assess risks, and make predictions based on actual data. Their clients can also extract data from the solution, from the Power BI embedded reports, to include in their own reporting solutions, saving them a lot of time and effort. And importantly, from an iPay perspective, when they onboard a new payroll client, they simply add a record to a control table in the data warehouse, and the data for that client flows through from the payroll management system into the data warehouse and into the reports without them having to do anything. The solution also drives data quality improvements, as any anomalies with the data is surfaced through the Power BI reports much more quickly. And since the initial release, they've had a lot of positive feedback from their clients, and they continue to collect that feedback. From a next steps perspective, iPay have been rolling the reporting solution out to small batches of clients at a time for the last couple of months. They're going to continue to do that. And as they do that, they spend time with each of those clients to make sure they understand how to use the solution, to make sure they're comfortable with it, as well as collect their feedback for incorporating into new versions of the reports. iPay are also taking the opportunity to look at the other systems that they have and the data that they're able to collect from that to see how they might improve the data platform and the reporting solution. And so one they're looking at the moment, for example, is workflow and service delivery KPIs. So being able to, at the moment, their service delivery managers are creating those reports for clients manually. They want to look to be able to provide that via the Power BI embedded reporting solution as well. Which feeds into the last point. This is the first iteration, and they're looking to add a lot more value to the solution for their customers moving forward. So that's it for our presentation section. We're now going to step over to the Q&A section. This is the contact details for Sam and I, and also for Guy and Ian from iPay, who were the key stakeholders from an iPay perspective. So if you're interested in getting in touch with iPay, then please contact Guy or Ian. If you're interested in getting in touch with Altis to learn how we might be able to help you build a solution like this for your clients or for yourselves, please get in touch with myself or Sam. So let's have a look at the questions that have come through. Some of them, okay, here we go. Let's have a look. Roger asks, how can you deploy the reports for many different clients all at once? Sam, can I ask you to address that, please?
Sure. So in the same way that we request the embed token via the Power BI API, we can also use the Power BI API to programmatically deploy many reports at once. In the case of iPay, where they have many different clients, each requiring their own Power BI reports and data sets, we can use any type of call to the API, which might be through PowerShell, or it might be in code, to repeatedly deploy automatically. So we're avoiding that situation where we're needing to manually deploy 50 or 100 or 500 things at once. We obviously don't want to do that.
Great. An anonymous attendee asks, how did you size Power BI embedded in Azure?
So it's a great question. There are several different options when choosing the Power BI capacities, and Power BI embedded in Azure is one of them. And you can indeed choose various sizes. And the sizes are based on how many visuals you want to render at once. So if you open up a Power BI dashboard and there are a dozen different things that you've dragged on, each one of those is a visual, and Microsoft will give you guidance on how many visuals a particular size of embedded capacity can render in an hour. And I suppose the simple answer to that is how many people are going to be concurrently accessing the reports. One thing to say is Microsoft will always give you as many embed tokens as you can request. And so they will always attempt to render your Power BI embedded visual, but it will get very slow if many people are accessing at once and you don't have the required capacity there. So it is a little bit of a trial, initially a testing exercise.
Great. Chris Suter asks, does Power BI embedded have a role in large organizations where the Power BI audience are internal members of staff rather than external clients? That is it cost effective? Is it a cost-effective alternative to licensing all staff members?
At some point, it certainly is a cost-effective alternative to licensing everyone. And that licensing that Chris was talking about there is Power BI Pro, so providing a Power BI service license to every staff member. The point, it's not entirely clear when that crossover is, but let's say that we have people occasionally using a dashboard, but they don't frequently use Power BI, and there might be 10,000 plus professionals within an organization that may need access to the dashboard. It could be management KPIs, it could be the business's vision. And so if many people need access to it infrequently, that's a great internal case for Power BI embedded. However, it's also possible to simply embed visuals anywhere we like, including in SharePoint or in a company intranet or something like that. And if we do that without Power BI embedded, instead users will be prompted to log into Power BI. So for a business that really wants to use Power BI embedded, but is small enough to license all of their staff, and that's more cost effective, it's still possible to use Power BI or to use embedded visuals.
Great. Phil Rothwell asks, how do you ensure that data errors don't creep into the database?
I think that is really a data warehousing on the data warehousing side rather than on the reporting or Power BI embedded side. And there are different philosophies on that. A popular one, and my one personally, is that data warehousing shines a light on data quality errors, and data quality issues. So if we're talking about errors that are incorrect, or data that's incorrect from a business sense, it may actually be beneficial to allow that to come into the data warehouse and be visualized so that can be fed back into the source system owners, the data stewards and so on, so that they can correct that data quality. If we know that errors are likely to come through frequently, we can instead take a business rule from those source system owners and apply it to the data. So yeah, we can do it one of two ways: either let the errors come through and then attempt to fix them in the source, which will in turn fix them in the data warehouse, or we can provide something proactive upfront, which has the disbenefit of kind of masking the fact that that error is going on.
And I'll just add to Sam's answer that as well as shining a light on potential errors in the source system, it can also potentially shine a light on business processes that may need addressing within your organization. And that obviously can be a bigger apple to take a bite from, but it might be something you need to consider. Before I read out the last question, if anyone else has any questions, please, I can see a chat come in. Please do feel free to add them into the chat window or the Q&A window as well. So another one here we have is, once you have deployed the solution, how easy is it to update reports and add new clients?
So adding new clients is a metadata change only, which means we simply need to tell the reporting solution that a new client ID is available. And adding new reports would mean that we, in the embedded solution, so in the app, we would need a place for that report to go, if you like. So we need a new page for that report to go into. If we want to update reports, that's as simple as republishing the report to the Power BI service.
Great, thank you, Sam. Does anybody else have any questions about the solution or the approach or any other aspect that might be particular to your organization? While I let you ponder that, I will certainly encourage you, if you have any further questions that you would like to discuss with Sam or I, please do feel free to get in contact with us, and love to have a follow-up Teams meeting with you to learn more about how you're doing reporting, both internally within your organization and also to your clients, and see if there might be an opportunity for us to assist you in any way. Always open to a chat to learn more. So I don't think we've had any more questions come through, in which case I think we will give you the gift of time. We've got 5 minutes left to go. Thank you very much, Sam, for a great presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And we hope you learned something about the Azure Data Platform and Power BI embedded solution that we delivered for iPay. I hope that gave you some inspiration for how you might want to improve reporting for your organization and for your clients. And again, hope you consider both iPay's global payroll services and Altis's data and analytics services. And with that, we will bid you good morning. Thank you for attending.